future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Seems like they're just happier than us these days. Yeah. These days, I don't know how to talk to you.
Are we on?
I don't know how to be there when
Thanks
you
for
need me.
welcome everybody to another fun edition. Where's my applause? You're throwing me off. Okay, there we go. Welcome everybody to another fun edition today of Kobylt and Friends. And thanks for playing Drake, my favorite. I'm starting to get sick of him. You know what I mean? I was like so into Maroon 5 and Adam Levine, my heartthrob.
Well, I
and
can move back to Maroon 5.
No,
if
we
you
have to
want.
find somebody else. Like,
Okay.
so then I went to the Drake concert. I had a great time, but now I'm kind of getting tired of him too. So who should we start playing now as my opening music?
Oh, we can pick whoever you like. I mean,
Yeah, all
I'll
right. We
just,
got to think about that.
we'll talk after the
you
show.
have to throw me off and just
okay, yeah,
throw
I can
stuff out there.
I'll throw a random song out there.
I
if
know.
You
Would
want.
you do that? And then we'll see if I know it.
Okay.
Okay,
yeah.
that's cool. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. We have another fun show. And joining me today in studio is my husband and the host of the very, very popular John and Ken show on KFI Radio and iHeartRadio, John Kobylt. Thank you for being here. Should we just keep arguing like we do at home about this election?
I'm so tired of it. You just won't stop.
What do you mean I won't
No,
stop?
anytime there's a lull or a little peace, you bring up all kinds of controversial topics.
See what I have to deal with?
I have to run to another room. I work all day doing this. I want to come home and just...
Because I'm trying to infiltrate
Relax.
how you think
Oh,
to
that-
understand what's going on here. I'm really trying to get into your
Well,
head because
you-
you have millions and millions of people listening. I have like 2 or 3. So there's a difference. So if I get to have some kind
So
of an
you
influence,
want to influence on me and the other 3.
no, I want to just get into your head so that
Alright.
you have an influence on all those people that listen to you. So okay, should we play the latest Trumpism? Everybody knows this one, but I wanted to talk to you about it, about
Okay.
how I feel about it. Let's go to the tape. We're not going to play the whole thing about Trump and Billy Bush on the bus, shall we? Okay.
You know, and
She used to be very. She's still very beautiful.
I moved on her actually. You know, she was down in Palm Beach. I
Can they hear me when I'm
moved on
talking?
her, and I failed.
Okay.
I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and fuck her. She was married.
Huge news there.
No, Nancy.
Yeah.
No, this was marriages, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted
There's
to
a
get some
date.
furniture. I said, "I'll show you where they have some nice furniture." I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch. But I couldn't
does that
get
mean?
there, and she was married. Then all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hot as shit. In the purple.
Whoa!
Yes.
Whoa!
Yes, the Donald has scored.
These are men who are getting nothing at home, for the record. They talk like little children.
That is very.
Give me the
Look
thumbs
at you. You are.
That's part of the problem, yeah.
You gotta get the thumbs up. Can't be too happy.
It's very fun.
You gotta give me the thumbs up.
You and I will walk there.
Oh my god.
Maybe it's a different one.
Better not be the publicist. No, it's her. It's
Yeah, that's her with the gold. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her.
God,
You know,
how
I'm
repulsive.
automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
End it.
You can do anything.
We're good. Grab him by the... That is, first of all, that's a disgusting word. Okay, that and the C word to me.
Really? Seriously?
How dare
They're
you?
in almost every Drake song.
I don't
word.
notice.
That word
but-
is almost in. I looked up a list of Drake songs that had that word in it. There's a whole website devoted to it.
What did I
So
say?
This
Excuse me.
is
What did I say last week?
this is.
Trump is ruining my marriage. This election is ruining my marriage because the two of
No,
us
if
do
you're
not feel the same
objecting
way.
to the
This
word-
is like therapy. You should come here every week and we should work this
If
out.
you object to the word when Trump says it, why don't you object to it when Drake says it?
I-
That's
I've
a
actually-
legitimate question.
May I say, I've never noticed him because I don't even listen to the Drake lyrics. I know, I just like.
How
I
could
just-
you miss it?
I just have. You've got to play the lyrics for me. That's not the point. I'm talking about Trump.
course
so let's
it's
stay. Hey, my show. Stay on topic. So here's the point. I find it offensive, but it's a bunch of idiots talking that they thought was in private, but more about not necessarily about Trump because we expect that kind of silly nonsense out of his mouth, which is disgusting and deplorable. I get it.
Deplorable.
but-
He's in that basket.
But Billy Bush being fired over it, that one I actually do disagree
He
with.
shouldn't be.
And I'll tell you why.
And-
He's a cackling hen. He's just going, ha, 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 because he doesn't know what else to say.
He's sucking up to the star.
sucking up to the
That's
star.
his job. That's what he does on camera
just
for his whole life.
Let me be clear. I don't agree with what they're doing. I need to be very clear about that. But to fire the guy, this is 11 years old. It's actually unfair that they would even dig this up. He didn't necessarily say anything that awful, except he made a stupid comment about the actress in the purple dress.
Is that a stupid comment?
You know
They're
what?
admiring a beautiful woman. You know how many times that's probably been said about you and you don't even know it?
Oh, okay. Well, I got you.
Okay.
But and thank you for the underhanded compliment, I suppose. But I will tell you, maybe what has to happen here, it's a conversation about what should and shouldn't be acceptable. Because I've always said this to you at home: if men are going to talk about that like in private, when they go out and they meet you and they're shaking your hand, who knows what they're really thinking in the back of their head and if they're going to act out on something. I'm saying
All right,
perhaps
can I give you a secret? Men are thinking that all day.
All right, stop. Kurt, is this true? This is my board op guy.
Yeah.
You are. But do you say it?
No.
You don't
See?
say it.
See
I
the
said
difference?
they're thinking it.
And you don't say it either. God knows. When I hear that stuff, I'm like, you would
No, but-
never do something like that.
No, I've never said
So that's
that.
how you think? Oh, my
but,
God.
But, before we all get married, we probably say a lot of rude things to our buddies when we're dating or trying to date and all that. I remember all
But
kinds of...
here's my point, okay? You don't...
You just don't want to accept what we are. We're animals.
Okay, but we're not...
Domesticated animals. We're like, the puppy in the house.
Okay, but how about we advance a little bit in society? Just take it a couple of steps further.
Well, good luck with
And my
that.
point... Why not? You know what I mean? You admittedly don't even talk like that. You don't, right? Are you telling me the
Okay.
truth?
No,
okay.
no, I don't.
Okay,
talk like
okay,
that.
but I've been around plenty of guys who do.
I have an idea.
And-
What if Billy...
And I am not going to scold them if I'm at lunch with them.
I
And one
didn't
of
say
them,
scold them and go, no. But you could just sort of redirect the conversation. What about that? What if this is an opportunity to redirect
what
things?
What does it matter if it's a private conversation? I don't understand. There's so much stuff that should be discussed in the campaign that really
This is
matters
true,
to
too.
people's lives. And whether Donald Trump is crude in his language towards women is of really no interest to me when it comes to the issues that I'm worried about in the country.
You're right there,
I mean,
too.
I've heard stuff like that 10,000 times in my life. So now add another one. And by the way, it was a private conversation, and NBC was wrong to leak that. That's a violation. There's kind of a I know they were mic'd up, but they were mic'd up inside the bus. They were waiting for the actress to come. They were goofing around like guys do, and I think it's really wrong, especially to Billy Bush.
I agree with you with
unleash
Billy
that.
Bush.
You know,
Okay,
because it embarrasses him and his family, and it changes the course of his career and his relationships. And because 11 years ago he was trying to suck up to Trump, I mean that's a heavy price to pay. That's the death penalty for not even a parking ticket.
Yeah, he was just sort of like laughing and sort of pushing along. Yeah, but again, just to say, is it possible that men can try to derail something like that in the future? Or no, this is just always going to happen? This is just how guys are?
I think you know what you there's been a lot of progress made on the way guys act. I think guys
true.
act much more civilized in the workplace, but that's the best you're ever going to do because the thoughts, we're wired for this, so the thoughts are automatic. And you'll also always get a good response from your friends when you make the jokes. So it's a way to bond with your buddies. And we all just play pretend now about what guys are, what they should be. They're not that, and it's never going to change. You're trying to rewire biology. I mean, go talk to God why we were made this way. Sometimes it's a burden.
Are you for real? I have so much to say about this.
telling you the truth.
And I totally disagree what you're saying, and now I'm starting to
You're-
get irritated.
you're not a guy.
Let's go to the Robert De Niro.
I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig. He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about,
Right, you
doesn't
can-
do his homework,
you can get
doesn't
out of it for a
care,
minute.
thinks he's gaming society.
Now, in my opinion, why is it okay for him to say that but not Trump to call somebody a pig? I'll answer for you, because he's not running for office. The problem is Donald Trump just shoots off at the top of his mouth, and I think one of the issues that the American public has about him is that, is he going to do that when he's in a foreign diplomatic situation, in which case you have no idea what this man's going to say. You can't pull him back with a rope because he's going to be sitting there at a table. He could really defame us and cause a lot of trouble. Do you see the point?
I see your point. Yeah.
Okay.
But what do you want to talk about though? Whether you don't trust his overall personality?
I think this is what's bringing this man down. This
Oh,
man
well,
could
yeah,
have
no.
had. He could have had the
It's
election.
his lack of self-control
Right.
has caused him all kinds of problems. There's a whole bunch of issues that he didn't have to get into. He didn't have to go off on the Mexican judge for 2 weeks. He didn't have to go after that a Muslim couple whose son died in the war. He did that for 2 weeks.
That was disgusting.
He did 2 weeks on Miss Universe, and that is the big flaw in his personality. It's a huge flaw in his personality in that when he feels that he's been disrespected, he acts like a mafioso.
He wasn't disrespected on that bus, not even for a minute.
No. Well, that was a private conversation. I separated the stuff he says publicly when he feels he's been insulted or attacked. He goes haywire for 2 weeks when everyone's screaming at him to stop, and he can't stop.
But this is
he's up at 3 a.m. and he's tweeting more stuff.
This is not so. To my point, is this someone that we want to represent our country?
I want somebody to flush out or take a shot at flushing out all the corruption and degradation in Washington. And Hillary is just an extension of that. So that's my choice. Tom McClintock, the congressman in California,
Right.
He put it best. He said, Trump wasn't my first choice for president, not my second choice for president, but this place is on fire. And when your house is on fire, you need a fireman. And the last thing you're worried about is if he's vulgar with his buddies in the firehouse. You want somebody to put out the fire. And so that's why he's picking Trump, because he thinks Hillary is the continuation of the fire.
Let's go to
and that's pretty much where I am, too.
Let's go to Joy Behar real quickly, because we know what happened there, right? She was putting down the women who were positioned at the debate against Trump. Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay.
These allegations, I wonder if she missed the opportunity to address it in a way that the public would understand that that's just not how you behave.
The big issue? I would like to apologize to those tramps that have slept with my husband. Maybe she could have said that.
Wait, but flip the side. What the other side of that?
Something up about yesterday, because during a political conversation yesterday, I made a joke, and I want to apologize. I never, ever intend to belittle sexual assault or the women who were victims of it, ever. But I made a joke. I'm sorry. Apologize.
At least she got to it right away. But I will tell you, there is a little bit of a double standard.
I have two minds on this.
Yeah, there's a bit of a double standard. You know how I feel about comedy. I wish we could sort of change the way things are done. I think very often people just poke fun at people.
I thought it was very funny, and everybody in the audience laughed. And that's mostly women in that audience. They laughed. It was funny.
So there's a bit of a double standard there. That
I don't think she had to
say
apologize.
the word chant. In this day and age, you do have to apologize.
Well, I don't like this day and age. This day and age really stinks.
You know what? But maybe if you were
It's
a woman,
destroying
if
comedy.
you were your kind of comedy,
That's
perhaps.
that's a woman making a joke about other women in front of women, and everybody was laughing. It's not my role to judge. People's funny.
People, okay, if we're in a world, and we are in a world, a global world, where people get insulted very easily, it doesn't take much to just sort of tweak what you're saying publicly so that you don't disrupt
You
things.
know what?
Right?
I don't care if other people are offended. When did being offended become
have to deal with
the most grievous crime in the world? So you were offended. So go home. Don't listen to the jokes.
But now you're
don't
telling
watch.
forget it. Now you're telling people what to do. What I'm saying is it
No,
costs...
I think that's logical. If I watch or hear something I don't like, I stop watching it. I don't try to destroy the person's career.
May I? Here's the difference, though. It's very often a woman will go out on the street and she will, I don't know, she'll be preyed upon, or all kinds of things will happen, or all kinds of folks who felt like that they were being.
I don't think there's a connection between the two. I think guys who are out in the street preying on women to attack them, they're damaged. They're psycho. And then there's just guys who tell jokes.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you're not one of those guys who tells jokes. I really am. I've never heard you do a thing like that. If you did, I'd be gone. Okay, so
That's why men speak privately to other men.
Okay.
I've probably said tons of things.
I don't want to know.
That would, but that's what guys do with their friends.
Okay, let's move on.
That's
for a
how we
minute.
keep ourselves sane.
Okay, what has this done to Trump in the polls? Because it's amazing to me that he doesn't dip down to 20%. I'm amazed that he's still sort of neck and neck. I saw something from the LA Times today. I don't know if this is the most recent poll, that they're still neck and neck, those two?
Yes, which is down from Trump usually leads the LA Times poll by a few points. Which
is amazing, really. Okay.
Well, they have a different way I think we talked about this once. They have a different way of concocting their poll. They're looking at enthusiasm and likelihood of voting. And they find that Trump supporters are wildly enthusiastic and much more likely to vote. And the Clinton crowd is much less interested. They're not as sure that they're even going to show up. So they try a mathematical formula. They claim they came in with within 0.5 of a point of predicting the Romney-Obama election 4 years ago, and it was the best out of any poll that was out there.
This is very interesting. And next Wednesday,
because what matters ultimately is who shows up. And that's the hardest thing for a pollster to figure out.
everyone needs to show up. I'm always on the phone and texting people and saying, "Did you register to vote? Did you re-register?" I mean, people.
I want all the Hillary voters to stay home.
I'm sure you do. I want all the Hillary voters to get out and go and vote. So there you go.
I'm hoping it
Can
rains.
you imagine our dinner time? I mean, forget it.
I'm hoping it rains really hard in all the Hillary neighborhoods, and then people say, it's too wet out there. I'm not going to go.
Well, I'm going to let you go because I know you have a show
thank
to
you.
do down the road over
All
in
right.
Burbank. Thanks for coming in. I
right.
really appreciate it. We won't talk about this at home. How about
Good.
that?
I'd be
We'll
really
leave it. Let's
happy
talk about
about it.
baseball or something.
That's
Wanna do
much
that?
better. Sure. All right.
Thank you, John Kobylt from the John and Ken Show. You may leave.
I may leave? Okay.
Yes, you may. You're excused. It's very difficult, Kurt. I'll talk to you for a minute to kind of work with this at home. I mean, we get on. Look, he's looking at me. I'm going to trash him as he's leaving. Well, no, not really. There's no interest in me to do that. But I have a good show. But it's tough because we feel very differently socially about this whole incident.
Yeah.
So,
See, I'm kind of lucky because my wife and I agree on just about everything in politics. So I have, when I talk to her, it's more of agreeing to and not
we managed to
combating.
keep it civil. In fact, I have my cousin in here, my cousin Nancy from New Jersey. I'm not even sure that she's on on camera. Hello, Nancy. She's been staying with us for the past week. She's been hearing a little bit of banter going back and forth. So, are you having a good time here?
Yes,
You
I
are.
am. Thank you. You're so very nice and hospitable.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to introduce you as my cousin Nancy Zacconi. But I have to tell you all this stuff with Trump and how he's been talking about women and how he shoots off of the mouth is a good lead into my next guest. I think she's on the phone.
Yes.
Susan Dunn, are you there? Hello.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi, how are you? Have you been listening in?
Yeah, I've been listening for a while now.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you for holding on. Susan Dunn, you're an expert on vanity sizing, right? You're from Washington State University. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We have a
Yeah,
huge...
me and
we have
Dr. Debbie Crystal at Washington State University has been doing some research into this stuff.
Yeah, and I read closely what your research and your study has come up with. I found it interesting that mannequins now. Well, okay, wait. The average size out there, is this American women, is size 16. Is that correct?
Almost. We did look at American women, and she's between a 16, 18. So you can't fit into something smaller. You go up. So she's closer to an 18 if we go by misses, and if we go by women's plus, it's around 20.
And you do a lot, and you focus a lot on body shaming. Tell me, what is body shaming? Just women feeling awful about themselves because they're a size 16 and not a 6 or a 0 nowadays. Out where I live in Los Angeles, if you're a 6, you're considered enormous. It's got to be a 0. I mean, I can't even believe that. It's got to be like a 0 or a 2. Anyway, what's body shaming?
Yeah, that from what we've seen, that is not the average. You know, that's far below average. And when we compare ourselves to others, you know, there's no comparison. You know, we are who we are, and that size on that label isn't who we are.
I agree with that. But again, body shaming is what? Just women feeling awful about themselves because they don't look like, the magazines, which we all know are so airbrushed. I mean, even if somebody looks like a size 0, I don't know, they could be a 15. I mean, is that what body shaming is? They just feel...
models don't even look like models.
No. But is that what you're saying it is? So tell me a little bit more about your study then.
Okay. Just this study, we've done a few different studies, but just this one was looking at who is the average American woman.
Okay.
We did some comparison between the National Health Nutritional Examination Survey and some voluntary standards in the apparel industry, just to try and find what is average, what is plus, those types of things.
Okay, I mean, you came up with, and did it matter where you did the study? Like, for example, middle of the country versus perhaps in New York, Los Angeles, Miami?
Yeah, we didn't collect the data. It's secondary data. The National Health Nutritional Examination Survey through the CDC collected all of that data. It was over 5,000 people, I believe, in that. Yeah, from 2012, there were 5,552 women that were collected throughout the United States. And through the data that they collected, we found the average waist measurement and then compared those waist measurements to ASTM clothing standards that not many companies actually use, but that's the closest thing we can do because there are no standard sizing.
Right. I read that in the past 20 years, the average waist size for a woman, I think, went from 34.9 to 37.5 inches. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Why? Why
the
is
most recent? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Why is it expanding, though? Is it based on our food choices, lack of exercise? What's going on? See, because I don't think that's healthy, and I talk from an interesting perspective. I've been fat, and I hate that word, but I was much bigger. At one point, I got over 240 pounds. That's pretty big, and I felt very differently about myself, and I felt people looked at me very differently, and I got sick of it, and I just started walking and eating less and shutting my mouth, and I lost a lot of weight. And not only did I feel better, I felt healthier. My knees didn't hurt. My waist size went down, and people really responded to me very differently. I was the fat girl in the room. It's not very nice to treat people like that, but that's how I was treated. So I'm one of those people who gets it. And I was also really, really thin earlier in my life. So I've been all over the spectrum. I'm sort of in the middle now. And I also don't think it's healthy that our waist size is expanding. It's great to be accepting, but I don't necessarily think it's great to perpetuate and just say, okay, this is okay, and just watch this continue. Do you get my point?
Yeah, it's a really complicated issue.
It is.
We don't understand, half of this kind of stuff. Me and Dr. Crystal, we're looking at the clothing side of this, the industry. We all have to wear clothing.
You're right.
How do we internalize this? How do we use this in our culture?
Well, I think what's important is, actresses like Melissa McCarthy, she's got a clothing line out now, and it's gorgeous stuff. Back in the day, it used to be that you would just sort of put on a large dress, it's sort of an A-line dress, and that was the end of that. Now, things are fitted and women are attractive at all sizes. That's really important, and that's got to help with the body image, right?
Oh, yeah. When you can find something that you can afford and that looks good on you, you feel great.
Yeah.
Or you can, If you get stuck just wearing oversized baggy stuff or even men's clothing because that's what you have that you can get, yeah, you don't feel like you.
But still, I think it comes from internally. You know what I mean? I think no matter what people say, like, hey, I'm large, I'm attractive, or I'm larger, I'm attractive, look at me. I think that somehow internally, when people are overweight, I can speak for myself, you still don't feel quite as good about yourself. Do you know what I mean? And I guess...
Oh, yeah. We're always comparing each other.
Yeah.
And, other people compare us, and yeah.
So what you're saying in the study is average size is a 16. It used to be smaller, though. Wasn't the average size at 12, I think?
Depending on what data you're looking at, 14 has been around for a while as the average size. And again, there's so many different ways to compare sizes. There's different measurements. Different companies use different body measurements to come up with sizes. We chose the waist because it's both for tops and bottoms, and some pant sizes are size 2 waist.
What's the purpose of this study, by the way?
Part of it was just trying to answer the basic questions. When we started doing some research into plus-size clothing and plus-size women, some of the basic, answers weren't out there. What is plus size? What is the average American woman right now? So this is just one of many that we're planning on to answer some of these questions.
I think there's quite a few clothing companies now and a lot of designer labels. I spoke to a friend of mine. She works over at the E! Channel, E! Entertainment, and she was over there covering Fashion Week in New York. And she said a lot of the top designers, like major top designers, are now, showing their clothes for plus size women. I don't like that term either, but whatever, for lack of.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's sort of insulting. And I thought that was such a great move that these women can wear gorgeous couture clothing, just because they're larger. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be out there for them,
Yeah, well, and there's like an assumption that if there's a basic want, if there are consumers that want this clothing, then it will be offered.
Yeah.
But that really hasn't been seen in the past.
What stores carry this stuff, or what? I know there's always been Lane Bryant. Are they even in business now? I don't even know. But what companies are out there that cater to women? I guess over a size 12 or 14.
Well, there's actually quite a lot of companies that do carry plus size. Now, the amount of plus size that they carry differs widely. If a company has like 2 pieces of clothing that are plus size, you can still say they have plus size.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's those like Lane Bryant and Catherine's kind of stores, but major retailers are also having departments like Target and places like that. But a lot of companies have plus size only online, it turns out.
That's difficult because you have to try on your stuff to look good. I mean, I always have to. I can hardly buy anything online. How about you, Cousin Nancy? Here, move up to the mic. She's going to kill me. She didn't want to be on.
No, I don't buy too many things online.
I don't, because it's very hard to see if it's going to fit. And then you have to, cart it back to the post office. But if you're a little larger, I would imagine that would even be more difficult, right? I mean, that's hard. So I guess saying, finding the space in these stores maybe and finding an area in the stores. I think Macy's has an area now, right? You go into Macy's and they have it, an area for plus size clothing.
Yeah, and there's fast fashion stores that are having plus size as well. Having been in some of these stores, it's often in back corners next to clearance items and, small spaces. But they'll offer more online, it seems.
So the bottom line with your study is, we're out there. Women are out there. We're beautiful. We might not be a 6 or a 0. We might be a 16, but we can wear the same stuff that everybody else is wearing and feel beautiful inside and out, right? Is that what the point of your study is?
Yeah, first of all, don't compare yourself to a size 0. A size 0 is not the average. It's not, it's not normal now. And also, we're not going to go away. I'm a plus size woman. I'm plus size. My family's plus size. I grew up with this stuff. That's one of the reasons I got into all of this. And I mean, I'm not going to go away. I want nice clothes. I shouldn't have to make them myself.
You're beautiful. I don't know if you're plus size or not. Your photo doesn't, I can't tell if you are a 2 or a 12. I just can't tell. So you're beautiful. So that's what I can tell you that just by looking at your photos.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
But yeah, we deserve clothing. We're not going to go away, and might as well have the clothes that fit well and that we can find it. One thing we found in our research was that there was $194 billion in returned clothing in 2010, and fit was the number one reason it was returned. So, I mean, it's a money game.
Is that all online returns or just in general? I'm a big returner. Oh, my gosh. If I don't try it on and I bring it home, inevitably it won't fit and back it goes. What a waste of my time. But is this mostly online stuff going back?
From that, it was both online and in store.
Interesting.
But yeah, most people, if they're shopping online, most women, you buy of them, and then you have to return 2 of them because all you have to go by is the size chart. But there's no standard sizing. So this is why we have to try everything on.
Yeah, I always do. Just to your point of, or to the point of like the waist size expanding, and women should feel good about themselves at any size. Again, I speak from someone who, was a little larger at one time. Food choice is really important, and it's okay, and we should accept each other at any size, but we also have to be careful what we're putting in our mouth. If we're eating too many carbs and, stuff that's going to make us expand, it's also not healthy on the inside. So I think it's great to accept how we look, but we also have to be mindful of what we're putting in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, personally speaking, I'm plus size. I don't even know what my BMI is, but I exercise routinely. I do weightlifting, things
good for
like
you.
that.
Wow.
I'm on all kinds of diets or whatever, and I'm never going to be skinny.
Yeah.
But if you compare my respiratory rates and my cholesterol levels, I'm amazing, but I'm never going to be tiny.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this study, and thanks for coming on with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Susan Dunn. And where are you calling us from?
Calling from Pullman, Washington, just outside of Washington State University.
Thanks for being on. And if people want to look up your study, how can they find that?
We have a few links. We're linking through LinkedIn. If this is all academic stuff, so there's ResearchGate.
ResearchGate. Okay. And they can look up your name and then find the study if they want to?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for being on, Susan Dunn. Have a good day. It's a complicated study. Complicated for me because I've been on all sides. I've been actually super skinny, somewhere in the middle, and then enormous after my third kid. That just never went off because I just didn't care. I wasn't working, and I really was not perceived and looked at the same way. I wasn't. I was just this elephant in the room, and it bugged me. It really bugged me that people, and I would think to myself, hey, I'm somebody who was on TV. People used to talk to me, and then all of a sudden people just would walk right past me. So I didn't like how that felt, and I decided to do something about it. I didn't care what anybody else looked like. I just didn't. But I also felt healthier, and I'm sure you've been up and down the spectrum, right, yourself?
Oh, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
We all have in our family. What do we eat? Pasta, meatballs, all that kind of stuff?
Lasagna.
And lasagna. You just come over, and there it is.
And there it is.
Anyway, my next guest, he's probably on the phone thinking, what? Anyway, Paul Worley, is that how you say your last name?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for hanging on. I hope you got a little bit of an education about being a plus-size woman.
Well, it's been some interesting conversation.
Oh, thanks for hanging on and being a patient guy.
Sure.
You are with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, right? A little
Yes,
applause
ma'am.
for you from our enormous studio audience. There you go. And tell me a little bit about your study. You did a study, which I actually found interesting, on how to survive a train crash. I didn't even know 4 tips that can save your life. And I thought about this. I've covered I've covered plane crashes too, but I've covered train crashes. And I've often thought when I get in a train, if I don't like those fast, what do you call them? The bullet trains, the ones that like get to DC from New York in like 2 hours. I'll take the 4-hour one. I get really worried when they go too fast. Isn't that the number one reason why these trains tend to crash?
Well, actually not.
No?
The main reason that we have train crashes and the number one problem are the cars pull out in front of the trains where they're...
Oh, you mean streetcars?
Right. Well, no, I'm talking about at the where you have the railroad crossing.
That's what I meant.
And
Street,
a car
regular,
goes
like...
around
yeah.
Goes around the gates.
Okay, when you see these people do this, don't you say to yourself, are you stupid? Why would you do that? Half the time they have a dog and kids in the car, and you're thinking, where are you going? Do you actually want to get there or kill yourself? I do not understand people who do this. It pisses me off. I did not know that was the number one reason for train wrecks. That's true?
Oh, absolutely. That's a big
So
problem
preventable.
in our country, and that is really where that we still have more fatalities than are acceptable. There's been a lot around the country to reduce the number of crashes. There's been a lot introduced as far as new technology and elimination of the crossings, but it's still a real problem out there. And if it comes down to you've just got the one person that pulls out and you're thinking they're taking their lives into their own hands, it also impacts the train. The train could derail. There's other people that
And
could
other
be
people around there. But I wonder, maybe they should have something like, posts, those metal posts that pop up and go down. Then you can't cross it. Can they do something like that?
Well, it's interesting when you get into the traffic safety world and you look at these devices. We've tested a lot of these in North Carolina over the last 20 years. And what you basically have to introduce to the roadway is something that will save a life versus keep them out of the tracks. In other words, if you had something that was too strong, it's going to kill the driver if they hit it. So it's almost like you've got to be able to absorb the crash and keep them out of the crossing and those type systems. What we found in our state is just using 4 gates instead of 2. They do that a lot in Southern California.
Oh, right. So in other words, instead of going down like this, I'm trying to think of how that would go. 4 gates? So can you describe that for me, if possible? How do you have 4 gates?
Think about you've got a 2-lane road or 2 different approaches meeting each other.
Yeah.
So you would have, normally you have the gate that comes down in front of your car. and then over beside you, you're going to have a gate that comes out, so you can't go around the gate. Is what it comes down to. 4 gates covering the whole roadway instead of 2
I
on
see.
each side.
And that wouldn't cost as much money. And we're all in the studio going like this, huh? Let's try and visualize
Exactly.
this. No,
just
and
just like you did your hands there.
yeah, so like this. Okay, you can see me good. But where is the safest place? Because I know that you did a study on where is the safest place to sit on the train. I don't know, on any train.
Well,
I mean,
on
I
a
guess this
commuter
is
train.
this is a no-brainer, right? You don't want to be the first guy sitting in the first car. Is that what you call it? The first car, right? You want to be somewhere in the middle.
It's interesting when someone does like a 30-second story, and especially to someone that's a practitioner in doing this particular kind of thing. You get into exactly what is if you've got a commuter rail line where you've got what they call push-pull service, where you got a locomotive and then it's like it backs up. You see that a lot on Metrolink and on some of the trains that operate out where y'all are at. You've got basically an engineer operating the train in the front of that passenger car. And so the passengers are there, and that is a less ideal place to be in that car in case you were to hit another train. That happened some years ago in Chatsworth when the engineer was using a mobile device. And
okay, that was ridiculous. That was we had 25 people dead, right, in that crash, I believe. But he was
and
texting.
they were in that lead car, exactly.
But he was going too fast as well. I think he was rounding a curve. I mean, you had such a collision, if you will, of problems. He was going around a curve. He was texting. I think he missed a stop sign or a signal previously. I mean, he just did everything wrong. So the texting, I can't even believe that he would do that. And you had 25 dead, and they were in the first car. Is that right?
Most of them were there in the first car. It was damaged because that really took the brunt of what it hit. So if you are in what I'll call a consist, a train set that's like that, I would not want to be in that lead car. I would want to be in the next car or try to be in the middle of the train. If you think about Amtrak, generally, the trains that may like the Coast Starlight or those that are north and south, if you basically have a locomotive in front of you, so you've got some pretty good protection. But commuter rail sets, they're a little bit different, and they're all around the country like that, and that's basically what was the issue. And as we've looked at major crashes on the East Coast over the last few years, where's the best place to be? In the middle of the train.
In the middle. Should you be in the aisle or should you be by the window? Because I was reading this study, and it also said, should there be a train collision, and you can't get out of there, push the window open, look for an exit. So should you be sitting by the window or sitting in the middle?
Well, that's either way is fine on that. What's going to happen is if there is a crash in a train, and let me say, train travel continues to be the safest as far as for the passengers on the train. And
it really is.
So we're really talking about remote, but nevertheless. Should something ever happen, the first thing you're going to want to do, the conductor or an official on that train is going to have some orderly way to evacuate. Then, if they're not around, or it's even worse, then you're going to want to try to move toward where the exit is and try to get out of the door there. But if you are turned over on the side, or something's blocking those entrances, then there are emergency windows in the train coaches, and they're very easily removed. I was able to remove one very easily myself, but you just pull the rubber stripping off of the side, and then the window comes right out.
Right, that red stripping you're saying, that just I know what you're talking about. Were you in an accident, or you were just doing this as a test?
As a test, we test them actually.
Mm-hmm.
When we run our service in North Carolina, one of the things we are required to do from time to time is to make sure they work, because you don't want them to be in a position where they're stuck. So you pull them out, you make sure they're fine, and you put them back in. So
basically stay in the middle, and also if you can to sit backwards, right? Because I just pulled away from the microphone, to sit backwards, because should there be a collision, then your head goes back first, correct? And instead of going forward, yeah. What about seatbelts? Have they thought about putting them on, or is that just too cost effective and wouldn't really be that effective? What do you think?
Well, no, it isn't, because you're there are a lot of negatives to that, but because there are going to be if you think about a rail car, it has a lot more different people. There may be baggage up top, or folks have bags in, and so that kind of thing could be flying around if you're flying around without a seatbelt. So in general, it's just not needed when you get into something like that. Most of the time, when something happens, if you're throughout the train, you're going to derail. There's going to be some injuries, but the ones we tend to dwell on are the ones that have been very tragic, where the car was split open or whatever, and those things do occasionally happen. But
like the one in Philadelphia, right, in 2015.
Right. Philadelphia.
They were going
a couple years ago.
That train was, yes, and I have to. Wasn't that going to D.C.? Is that correct?
Well, he was headed. I believe he was headed north. I believe out of Philadelphia through there. But when they went around the curve, I believe they found that operator lost his his sense of
speed,
direction, awareness. So
but also speed,
and
because
the speed went up that much more too. So.
Yeah, he was at 100 miles an hour at that point.
Exactly.
I mean, they
speeding up when he should have slowed down.
But what happened there? I mean, was he not paying attention? I mean, 100 miles an hour around a curve, and I think wasn't that a high-speed train? I think going.
Well, yeah, it is. It's a higher speed train. It was. It's supposed to be going around 125 miles an hour, and in an area where the train should have slowed down, it did not. It sped up because he really lost his awareness of where he was at. There's some reports of some extenuating circumstances around that area where something may have been thrown at the train and so on. And there's a complete study on that by the Transportation Safety Board as well as the FRA. But one of the things that is happening out there in the railroad industry that will make things safer for the passengers and for the public and the operators is something called positive train control. And when we talk about some of these crashes, it's a system that basically lets a dispatcher know where the train is at. And this computer system will either slow down or stop the train if it passes a signal aspect, a point on the railroad. If it were to go too fast, there's a lot of potential with this particular system. But there is a federal mandate to have that in place by the end of 2018, and that is something that the rail industry has been dealing with for some years now. It's a congressional mandate.
Let me just get in here. That's important because, look, we've got cars that already can sort of kind of drive themselves. I can't believe that we don't have that now on trains. I mean, that we don't have a situation where if it's speeding up too fast in an area where it shouldn't, that it just sort of slows back on its own. That's not built in yet?
Well, we will with this new system is what that comes down to, and that's why Congress took it upon themselves to require, and that was a result of the Chatsworth tragedy, that equipment be installed in the locomotives, and the railroads are in a process of putting that in throughout the country. There have been some delays on that system because it's a brand new system that's being built from the bottom up.
And that will be installed in all trains? Are these, most of the Amtrak trains, commuter trains, everybody's train?
Oh, it will be installed on routes that carry passenger trains or hazardous material and other criteria. So it's basically your heavier traveled railroads, and anything that has passengers basically would have that positive train control system. And that is using the GPS, using the data as far as the way the railroad is. It's very much like when we talk about remote controlled cars, being able to find their way down the track. There's still an operator, but it's really a level of safety.
In this country, are a lot of people still taking trains? Now, I'm over in California, and we don't exactly have the greatest mass transit system. We're trying to build that bullet train. You know about that, right? Up and down the coast.
Oh, yes. That's
really quickly, though. It sure is. What are your thoughts on that one?
Well, it's very ambitious what's tried to be built there. And
there's no doubt
it's one of these things. I think that it's very. Anytime you build anything on the railroad, it's going to be really complex. You're using new technology. You're acquiring new right of way. I guess we always say somebody has to be the first one to do it somewhere. It will be interesting to see how that evolves over time.
If it can even get done. I mean, it's so tied up and so much red tape. There's so many people against it.
Right.
It was going at such a high speed, or it was supposed to be going at such a high speed. Then they had to, there were so many revisions. Now it's like 4.5 hours to get up to San Francisco from LA. And I'm thinking, geez, you could drive it in 6. That's really being held up. It'll be interesting if it ever even gets off the ground. But
you have a lot of good service that I know of out in California. There's a lot of very efficient train service that's not high speed. You've got the coaster service, the surfliners. A lot of the Metrolink runs a really nice commuter operation, and then the Capital Corridor up to Sacramento. So they're what we call more conventional railroad, and they perform very well and have good ridership.
Yeah, we're getting there. I mean, we're a little behind. We were the state with the automobile. We're known for that. So we're finally getting a little more mass transit out here to catch up. So thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate it.
Sure, anytime.
So basically, sit in the middle of the train. Doesn't
sit
matter.
in the middle of the train and at the crossing, look both ways.
I can't believe we even have to
signal.
tell people this. How do we even have to tell people to stay out of the crossing? What kind of an idiot do you have to be when you see the little red lights going? Can't you just wait? I mean, it just goes without saying. But
I'm always one of the things we find. We've done a lot of research on this, Deborah, and one of the things we found is that generally the people that are hurt are the ones that have made a mistake. They're in a hurry. They've lost situational awareness. And that's the real shame of it. There are people that go around the gates and they find their way out. It's just amazing what you see. But it's just you got to stay off the tracks. You got to look both ways at the crossings and ride the train too. So it's a good message to have.
Paul Worley from the North Carolina Department of Transportation, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
have a good day.
Excuse me, Kurt? And Cousin Nancy, come on up to the mic. Do we really have to tell people to do this? How stupid are people?
Right?
But I mean, you know what I always wonder when these trains go barreling by like really, really fast? Like, what if a dog is on the tracks? What happens? You can't keep a dog off. They're not driving. They don't know what they're doing. Like, does that cause an accident or just kills the dog or the animal? And I don't know. I actually wanted to ask him that. Seems like kind of a dumb question, but I imagine that it wouldn't cause an accident at such a high rate of speed. But
I don't know. It's just ridiculous what you see people do. I've seen accidents. Right by my house, there was a place, or there's a railroad crossing where.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, there's this huge car just got mangled because he was in the track.
Did the guy die?
The ambulance was coming, so it didn't look. He didn't look good. So it's just if you're in a rush to get to a place, it's not worth your life,
No, and I've actually been very grateful that I didn't raise my kids anywhere near a train crossing. They have always made me nervous because for whatever reason, human nature just wants to sort of, I don't know, buck the system a little bit, walk across it. Kids always very often walk on those, what are the trestles? Is that what they're called?
Something like that.
The bridges. The whole thing just makes me uncomfortable.
Well, that's what some kids do. They put pennies on the tracks. And then wait for the trains to go by. It smushes the penny, and then you grab it afterwards. So
it doesn't go flying off. That's what smushes the little penny. Really?
Yeah.
I'm not going to try it. But did you have a nice time here, Cousin Nancy?
I did. It was really nice.
Yeah,
very nice. Very exciting.
You had a really good time here. So, do you do the trains a lot when you're back? I mean, back east because I grew up in Jersey. Oh, you live near a train?
I live near a train, and kids used to cross over the train track where I live. At the end of my street, they put up fences because kids were taking their bikes up the thing over the trail. I said these kids are crazy because you don't know when the train's coming.
I know. See, now he was talking about barriers where the cars cross.
But there are kids that'll just cross.
They'll just cross in the middle, all the time, just going back and forth. And I've seen that too. And you wonder, oh my gosh, what if your shoe gets caught? Or so. Stay off the tracks.
Trains come out
anyway,
fast.
I'm glad you're having a nice time out here in sunny Los Angeles. You've been to the beach. We've been to the Grove. We've done all kinds of fun things. So thanks for being in studio with me
and this
today.
is fun. This is very
You having
exciting.
a good time?
I am, thanks.
New career for you. Okay. Everybody, thanks for tuning in to another really fun edition of Kobylt and Friends. We'll see you next week. And don't forget to sign up to vote.